We are predicting the 2025 NFC North standings, and I am going to go first, starting with the worst in the division, then working my way back up to first. And let me first just say, this division is torture, not only for the teams in it, but for us who have to predict it, because this is an impossible division to predict. You could basically, honestly, we talked about it in the AFC East episode with the 2 through 4 teams. You could put this division in any order at the end of the regular season, and I would believe you. Like, this division, all 4 teams, I think, are capable of winning this division, and I think honestly all 4 teams are capable of being last in this division. So honestly, when it comes down to picking this division, I'm going about like 90% gut and like 5% what I want to happen, and then like 5% actual football analysis. Again, my order could be the exact opposite of correct when it comes to December, but this is where I'm going to go. And I also don't think there's going to be any 14-win teams in this division this year. I think they're all going to be anywhere from 8 wins minimum to about 12 wins maximum in this division, because all of them are top 7 hardest strength of schedules in football. All part of the reason why their hard strength of schedules are so hard is because they're playing against each other. So at 4, and Sammy, again, this is really hard. I don't know where else to put this team. I'm putting the Green Bay Packers at 4th. I think the Green Bay Packers are going to get last here in this NFC North this year. Again, this is just mostly gut here. Okay, I really like this team. Last year they had the winning recipe of running the rock, which they were top 5 in the league in, and stopping the run, which they were 7th in the league in. I like Jordan Love. I like Matthew Golden. I like Matt LaFleur. I like this defense, but therein lies the issue for me and the reason why I have the Packers 4th. It's just like for me with the Packers. There's not a lot of things that I truly love with this team. Plus that 1-5 division record from last year concerns me. The offensive line to me is kind of middle of the pack. Me ranking the Packers last is more just that I like these other teams a little bit better than Green Bay. However, I still think the Packers are good, but I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, because it's going to be hard for 4 teams in one division to make the playoffs, because they're going to be beaten up on each other so much. So I think it's going to be a 7-10, more like an 8-9, 9-8 record for the Green Bay Packers this year, which is shocking because I think the Packers, if they were in any other division, would have a really good shot to win it. I just don't think they're going to win this NFC North this year. So I'm going to kick it to you, Sammy. What do you think about this Packers being potentially last place in the NFC North, and who do you think is going to be last in the NFC North?
Yeah, I don't see a true world where the Packers are that bad, especially after the season they had last year. I actually at last had the Minnesota Vikings, and the reason I had the Minnesota Vikings was mainly because I'm not very sure about JJ McCarthy. I did not like JJ McCarthy coming out of the draft, unlike a lot of people. And because of that, I'm not very high on the Vikings this year. Now, with that being said, I have the Vikings finishing over 500 because I just think that the defense itself is just going to be super good. And I think they're going to be able to they have Jettas on the team. And because they have Jettas, they have a great offensive play caller in Kevin O'Connell. I just think that overall they're going to be still a solid team. Just in a division like this, I don't see how JJ McCarthy to me is going to be able to stand out. With that being said, concerning the Green Bay Packers, they had a top 10 defense last year, and I expect it to stay the same. They added Matthew Golden as their wide receiver. I'm very high on him. I think he's going to be the wide receiver one they are looking for. So I definitely do not agree with the Packers being last in the division. I definitely have the Vikings in that fold.
Well, here's my thing about the Vikings and the Packers, right? Because again, I think both of these teams are going to end up around 9-8 to me. I think they're both very, very similar. The only thing that I like with the Green Bay Packers more than the Minnesota Vikings is Jordan Love. Like basically everything else, I'm giving the advantage to the Minnesota Vikings. Like the Vikings beefed up both of their front lines this offseason. The defense was already one of the league's best, bolstered their interior defensive line with Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. You bring in Isaiah Rodgers as well, who's graded out very, very well his whole career in that secondary. Plus, obviously, as you know, Brian Flores is one of the best defensive minds in football, and that defense was humming last year. And offense, I think the offensive talent around JJ McCarthy is one of the most well-rounded units in football. The offensive line was a potential weakness, but they addressed it in the offseason. Offensive line additions, all of them interior. They get Ryan Kelly, the center from Indianapolis, and they get Will Fries, the right guard from Indianapolis, both who have been very, very good on the interior for their whole careers. And then they drafted Donovan Jackson in the first round to come play left guard for them as well. So the weakness of their offensive line was up the middle. We saw it get exposed against the Rams in that playoff game and against the Lions in the last game of the regular season, and they fortified it right away. And also, you got a really good tackle tackle duo, obviously Darisaw coming off that ACL on the left side, and then O'Neal on the right side as well. So PFF has them ranked as the 7th best offensive line in football heading into 2025. To me, you got a top 5-ish tight end in TJ Hawkinson. You got a top 10 running back room with Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. You got a top 10 head coach, a top 5 offensive mind, in my opinion, and Kevin O'Connell. And then you got the best wide receiver in the NFL and Justin Jefferson with Jordan Addison coming back after a 3-game suspension. So obviously, like you said, the biggest question is JJ McCarthy. Is he a franchise quarterback? And I like JJ. I think he's a little bit overhated. He's a good leader. He's accurate, good decision maker. He's mobile, but he doesn't have crazy arm strength. And I really don't like his release. That's the one thing I don't like about him. The release just seems long and slow and just doesn't seem like it gets on receivers very quick. But I think he can be a really good starting quarterback in the NFL. Is he going to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL at any point? No way. He's never going to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. But can you win with him in this roster? Absolutely. I think my comparison for JJ McCarthy is a little bit more talented Brock Purdy. I think that's what I see when I watch JJ McCarthy. He's just a little bit more talented version, a little bit bigger version of Brock Purdy. So despite me liking most of the team, I think they're bound to take a step back this year just because I don't think 14 wins is sustainable for the Minnesota Vikings. We saw that kind of at the end of last year, how those last 2 games played out. But I think they're still in playoff contention. I have the Vikings finishing 3rd in this division at 9-8 or 10-7. So that's where I'm standing with the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to kick it back to you, Sammy. What do you think? What do you think about the 3rd place here in this NFC North?
So 3rd place, I actually had the Bears. I do have the Bears being a 10-win team. This is the biggest, probably the biggest take that the hottest take that I have. I think the Bears finally break the mold. I think Ben Johnson is the right coach. I'm really high on them. I think they got better defensively. I love the secondary specifically and who they have there, especially Jaquan Brisker, big Jaquan Brisker guy. And I think the O-line also is going to be a lot better this year. So the biggest change that I think changes everything, Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson finally changes the culture there. I think his offensive prowess launches Caleb Williams to heights. I mean, we could be talking top 10 by the end of the season. That's how high I'm thinking of him. It's definitely very risky for me to do this because the Bears, every single time that seems like they have a little bit of hope, it's just never works right. It just never works out. It never really does. However, I do think this year is going to be a different year. Packers, I have winning 11 games. So I think you and me are completely different levels when it comes to the Packers. And that's completely fine. One of us is going to have to be wrong. Certainly not going to be me, ladies and gentlemen, but we'll see down the line. Now, with that being said, I think we both have the same division winner, right?
Nope. You would be wrong.
We don't. Really?
Yes, you would be wrong.
Really?
Mm-hmm. If you want me
to so I'm high on the Bears. You are on like weed with the Bears. That's where we're going right now, right, Matt? That's where we're going?
That's exactly where we're going, Sammy. And listen, again, I said it at the beginning. It's a lot of gut feeling here. It's a lot of gut feeling in this division with the NFC North. And on last week's episode on the AFC South, I told you guys what I tell the kids in the gym and what I tell the kids that I coach. It's don't make the same mistake over and over again. You always got to make an adjustment. Last year, I picked the Bears to make the playoffs. So I'm also going to use a saying that my mom used to say to me, and it's do as I say, not as I do, kids, because I'm about to make the same mistake over and over and over again because I think the Chicago Bears are winning this division. I just do. It's a huge gut feeling. It's a huge leap of faith, but this is where I stand. I feel the same way, but even stronger than you do about Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. Caleb Williams has top 5 talent. Like his talent level is top 5 in the NFL. He's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL. Ben Johnson is one of the 5 greatest offensive minds in the NFL. You combine that with the young offensive weapons that they have with DJ Moore, with Romo Dunze, you bring in Luther Burden in the draft, you bring in Colston Loveland in the draft, then you fix what was the main concern of this offense last year, which obviously, first of all, was the play calling with Ben Johnson. Second of all, was the interior of that offensive line. You fortify it with Jonah Jackson, with Joe Thuney, and then obviously with Drew Dahlman at center as well. You make it one of the best units in the entire NFL. PFF has them ranked as the 4th best offensive line going into the season. So you give Ben Johnson the 4th best offensive line, one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL. DeAndre Swift is a solid running back in the backfield, and a defense, in my opinion, that last year performed really poorly strictly because the offense was so bad. They couldn't play complementary football. They weren't well coached. Now you bring in Dennis Allen as the defensive coordinator. You fortify that defensive line with Deo Digbo. You bring in Grady Jarrett as well. Like you said, I really like that secondary. I like the safety duo with Kevin Byard, Jaquan Brisker. You got Jalen Johnson on the outside as well, who's a really, really good corner. The linebacker duo as well isn't the best, but but TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds is good enough to win football games, in my opinion. So I am really, really high on the Bears. And this is where I don't think any of these teams, like I said, is going to jump out and win 14 games this year. I think they're all going to be jumbled between like 12 and 8 and 9. I think that's where they're all going to be this year. And I just think the Bears are going to be an 11-win team this year. I know it's and win the division. It's a crazy. I'm out there with it. I just really do believe in Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson in this roster. I really just do.
I completely understand the hype, and I'm even buying into it. I have them making the playoffs to win the division in a division where the Lions have dominated. I have the Lions winning this division, ladies and gentlemen, and the reason I have is because they have literally kept everybody, right? The offensive line got a little bit worse, just a little bit. They pretty much have the same weaponry. They have the same QB. They have a better defense, and I think that was the big thing. If they can stay healthy, I think this defense – I mean, you saw what the defense looked like without everybody healthy. I think with everybody healthy, this defense is still a top 10 defense, and they have all the weapons on the offense. I really doubt that the loss of Ben Johnson is so unbelievably steep that the Lions offense just falls off a cliff. I still think it's going to be a top 5 offense. I think the Lions have the potential to have a top 10 defense. And with that, I have the Lions as strong contenders still this year. I think the Lions win this division. It's not going to be easy. I think this is the best. Like I said, it's the best division in football. But the Lions are still going to be kings of the North by the end of the season.
Sammy, you know how much this hurts me to not pick the Detroit Lions because each of the last really 2 years, surprised. This has been my Super Bowl team. Like that, I've been my actual team has been rotting the last couple of years, and I've actually kind of rooted for their demise because I knew they were going to be horrible, and I wanted a higher draft pick, and we kind of used that to rebuild our team, and now we have a little bit of hope in New England this year. But so we were bad the last 2 years, okay? So I needed another team to root for, and that was the Detroit Lions. If anybody who knows me knows, like, I predicted them to go to the Super Bowl in 2023, in 2022 when they were 6-7. So if they would have actually gotten to the Super Bowl, it would have been one of the greatest predictions in the history of predictions. And I'm not even tooting my own horn there. It would have been an all-time great prediction. And they were up by 17 in the NFC Championship game before all went to shit in the second half of the NFC Championship game. And then I ended up technically being wrong, but like the closest anyone's ever been to having one of the greatest predictions of all time. But again, so it pains me. I've been rooting for this team the last couple of years. I'm going to root for them again just because I love that culture so much. But the loss of Ben Johnson really does concern me. And the loss of Frank Ragnow, that center, really, really does concern me on the offensive side. And again, they got some change at guards as well. So again, if you have a little bit more pressure up the middle, that's somewhere where I think Jared Goff could get a little bit more exposed as if guys are pressuring a little bit up the middle. He's better with pressure around the edges, just like most pocket quarterbacks are when you can step up in the pocket and make a throw. But if he's getting pressured from up the middle, he's not very mobile to scramble inside and outside of the pocket. So that center situation concerns me a little bit. And then I do like you said, all the defensive players coming back, but with Aaron Glenn as well being gone on the defensive side, that concerns me a little bit from a culture perspective and from a defensive scheme perspective there as well. So, but the defense was the most banged up unit maybe in NFL history last year. So you got to think you're not going to be that banged up again, and you still won 14 games with that unit. You added DJ Reed, who's a really, really good corner to that secondary as well. Offense, like you mentioned, still has all the weapons, could potentially still be explosive. This is definitely still a playoff team. I'm not saying they're not making the playoffs. I just think they're not winning 14 games this year. And like I mentioned, I'm a little bit nervous about the interior offensive line and not having these coordinators. So I think it's going to be 10-7 this year for the Detroit Lions. But again, I'm out there. I'm on a limb, bro. Like I'm on the plank, and I'm on the very edge of the plank right now, picking the Chicago Bears to win this division because like I mentioned, I really like all these teams. I just think Chicago's got that nuclear potential out there in the NFC North.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.